Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about hardship letters. This is something that I've talked about in the past. And when I look at the whole industry with credit repair, with debt settlement, with people making plans like Dave Ramsey and all of the different programs that are out there, this is one of the mechanisms that I don't see utilized a lot. We utilize it a lot in with debt settlement when we're working out deals for clients, and even when I've talked to my associates who own debt settlement companies, this is an aspect that they rarely talk about when they're trying to do debt settlement. They're just like going straight at it, just saying, hey, we want to try to work out a deal, because they don't have the money. But there's actually something that you could do to actually force, I don't want to say force, have a debt collector or an original creditor actually cancel out your debt. I'm talking about where you just won't even owe the money. They'll just cancel the debt out. And you could go to my website where I show an example. Like the biggest one that we got was for a client for I think it was Chase or Citibank. I think it was Chase, for over $36,000 that was just totally canceled. He didn't have to go to court. There was no bankruptcy. There was nothing like that. It was just where we just described in a letter his hardship, and they chose to do that. Now, the crazy thing about it is that he had over 200 and some $1,000 worth of credit card debt that we had to deal with, but and we had to deal with the other ones a different way. But this was one where when we initiated the plan, that $36,000 off of that total amount that he owed was chopped away, like instantly. Like he was surprised. He was like, I didn't even know that this was an option. Now, before I get to talking about that, I want to kind of entertain a little bit. I'm in my leather jacket here, and I got my golden microphone, and I have my Rick Ross book. I think I was looking at my analytics on here on YouTube, and it said that the age group that I hit the most is like 34 to 55. Like that's the group. And I think that if you're in that group, because that's my age group, is that we know about hip hop. We grew up when it was coming up. Now, for music, I'm not mainly a Rick Ross fan for music. But what happened, this is how I got the book, and then I'm going to be rapping to y'all in a second. So you want to stay tuned for that. What made me buy this book was I was getting some gifts at the bookstore for my daughter. And she read, like my youngest daughter, all of my children, they read. Like they were like big readers. I remember Tara, my middle daughter, she read through that Harry Potter book. It was like this thick. I think she finished that book in like a week or 2 weeks. And she was like, I think at that time, 14 maybe at that time. And my youngest daughter reads like we own a business with her, and she has this wall of all these books where they sell and people buy them and then they sell them back to the store and they resell them. But my daughter, I remember when she was younger, before we even started the store with her, is that she was always reading. Like she was constantly reading. I was like, you read that whole thing? She's like, yeah, I already read that whole book that you just got for me. So reading is fundamental. It is not a lie. I read. I have books right next to my nightstand, and I'll read. And depending on what the book is, and if I believe it's BS or a good book, I'll read it really fast. Like this one here, I've had for a week, and I'll be done with it very soon. But what happened was I was getting that stuff for my daughter, and then I had just walked by, and you know how some of the times they'll have the books where they're displayed where you can see them this way, they're not this way. And so when I walked by and I saw that, and I was like, Rick Ross, okay, let me see what he says. It says, The Perfect Day to Boss Up. A Hustler's Guide to Building Your Empire. So I was like, let me just see what it's about. And this is something that you need to pay attention to when you're coming across something new, because secrets or messages can come to you when you don't even know it. So what I did is I picked up the book, and I have a habit of doing this. I'll just do this. And when I do that, it'll land on a page. And then I'll read that page. And let me tell you what happened on the page, because I'm big about finding out what if people will actually tell you the real deal about how they became successful, or if they're just going to be BS. Because some people actually don't know how to express it. They've went through things, but they don't know how to express it. And when I got to that page, I flipped through, got to that page. He knows how to express the hardship that he went through to get to where he was, where he is today. Now, I don't want to ruin the book, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what he went through, and it relates to what you are probably going through with your credit. It does relate to it, because it talks about hardship, what you got to go through. It's different for everybody. And stay tuned, don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about hardship letters. So all of this comes together. But I don't know if you know this, maybe he's talked about this in other interviews and stuff. But in this book, he stated that it took 10 years for him to become successful. 10 years that he had wrote records, or whatever they would. I always say records, but he wrote songs, and he said that he couldn't even give them away. He performed, and he was raggedy at the performance. That was like his word, that it was like, sorry, he sucked, everything. And then last night when I was reading, and this is about the part about giving up, is that he said that he almost gave up on his dreams. And this is the situation where it happened. He said that he had just performed at a small venue, or I don't know, it was like a club. I think it was Alabama. Yeah, it was in Alabama. And he only got paid $250. Now, this is Rick Ross. He got paid $250. That was it. They didn't even have money for a hotel. The place that he was performing at didn't pay for a hotel or nothing. It was just get there, perform, you get $250 and take your butt home. That's what it was. He described where after he performed, people wasn't feeling him. It was, he just felt like it was just, the people was waiting for him to get off the stage than to be on the stage. And then he described where afterwards, he said he was drunk. I guess maybe they gave him free liquor at the end, and he got to his car with his partner that was with him, and he said, "Hey, here go the keys. Let's just get back home to Florida." And he described, because he said he was drunk, he was tired, he just wanted to sleep. But what he didn't realize was that his friend was also drunk, tired, and needed to sleep. But his friend was driving, and Peanut, that's what he said his name, Peanut. He was driving, and then all of a sudden, Rick Ross woke up, and they were about to crash, like they were about to go off the road. And he looked over, and Peanut was asleep. And so he said it was already too late to make any maneuvers, that they started rolling over and crashed. And, all of a sudden when the cops got there, they arrested them for drunk driving, even though he wasn't the one driving. He described friends that was trying to come up with the bail money. They was calling their moms to try to come up with the bail money to get them out of jail so they get back home. And he said that at that point he felt like, man, and he said it in the book, that it was like this, man, I don't know if this rap game is for me, like if I'm cut out, if it's going to work for me. That's what he said. Now, he had worked 10 years to get to where he wants to be. 10 years. People cry about working on their credit for 2 months or 30 days. He worked for 10, and you might be saying that the rap part is harder than it is for the credit. Everything in life is the same, because what I'm about to describe to you is what makes it everything the same. It might be a little bit, it's different in what you got to do, but the mountain you got to climb is the same for everything because the mountain is on the inside. So he described that while he was sitting in jail, he was thinking, this whole thing ain't going to work for me. I'm not getting any success. He's tried everything. He thought he had tried everything. Now, you know that 2 months later, his hit record, Hustling, became a hit and everything blew up for him. 2 months later. 2 months later. So just think, what if he would have just quit and it's 2 months later, everything would have was turning around. But you can't see that that's about to happen. And he describes it in the book. That's why I got the book, is because he describes it. I like being able to utilize this type of information to help you with your credit. Because he described it. He said that the reason why you can't see it is because success is around the corner. Unless you're Superman and you can see through the wall, so you can't see success. So you have to just keep doing. You have to keep in the process. Stay in the process and you will get there. I wish I could tell each and every one of you how fast you would get there. But every one of your situations is different. Every one of your temperaments is different. What you're going through at home with your job, your family, your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, how you were raised, the way that you react to certain things, that's what's different with all of us. So the object of everybody's desire, even though they're all different, they're really the same. What's the difference is what we bring to the table. And some people bring to the table a non-quit mindset that I'm just going to just keep doing it. Yeah, you think you want to quit, but then you just pick yourself back up and be like, I'm just going to keep doing it. Because why quit when, try forever, because at least you're trying for something. But when you quit, you know that it's all over. So that was very good. So now I'm about to rap to y'all. This is a rap that I wrote last night. No, I'm just joking. I'm going to talk about the hardships. But let me take a quick drink real quick of my coffee. Still working on that glare. Let me move this up a little bit. So, the hardship letter process, this is why it's so important to know and to have experience when it comes to credit repair, when it comes to getting out of debt, because it's not just about trying to dispute things, and as a matter of fact, I was watching a video yesterday and he was like beating down on credit repair companies. And he was stating that all credit repair companies do is say that the item is not theirs. And that's not true, because we don't do that. What did I say every time in my video? That we use an 8-point validation system and a 2-phase settlement process. So a validation system, we put that in place because what we're doing is validating with the credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, and we're also doing a validation / verification process with the original creditors. That's the way that we repair credit. That's why, when I say if you either do it our way or you go somewhere else, well, he's talking about the somewhere else. I'm talking about the way that we do it. So now, part of our process that we go through, and we do this with clients who have a financial hardship, is that you can reach out to original creditors and debt collectors when it comes to doing settlements, but it can also work where a debt collector could choose to just also cancel out that debt. And let me tell you how you get them into that. And some of you might be saying, well, Steve, what about a template? We'll talk about that in a second. So now, tips for writing a hardship letter. I just went right online with it, and then I'm going to tell you our experiences. Is that it says keep it original. When they say that, keep it original, that means that don't do something with a template. So I'm just telling you right now, you don't want a templated hardship letter. You need, like when we talk to people in our with our services, we say you got to tell us the real. This is the truth. This is how it goes. We say tell us the story, and then we hang up, write it down, and then we call them back the next day and we say tell us the real story. Because people, for some reason, people try to make it conform to make them feel better about what they're going through. And then sometimes people make it worse than it is to make it because they want to try to convince someone of something. This is the way that you need to make a hardship letter is that you just need to make it real. You need to tell people what your situation is, because basically what you're doing is you're getting a document to someone that's going to have to take it to someone that makes a decision on the debt that you owe. And they have to have a dang good reason to, number one, to even take it in their office. Like, why are you bringing me this letter? Get it to the lawyers so they can try to sue them to get our money. So that's already one hurdle you got to get it over. And so that's why it says keep it original. Because if they see something that's templated, that thing is going to get kicked out. Next thing is be honest. And that's what I was just saying. While we call people and talk to them, and then we hang up, take our note. Well, we take our notes, hang up, and then next day, call them back again. Tell us the real deal. Next thing is keep it concise. They don't want you to cry, but they want you to cry. What it is, and that's why that's why it's called a hardship letter. It's like it's confusing, and people. That's why if people are not don't have experience in certain things, they'll be like, well, dang, it's a hardship letter, and you say, keep it concise, and don't get into the other stuff. He's like, well, dang, this is a hardship letter. Don't you want to know my hardship? They do want to know your hardship, but they want to know it in a way that a business can absorb it, in a way that someone can read it and say, okay, this is the real deal situation, and they can feel comfortable about taking it up to their boss. Because believe me, like just last night, so this is real deal info. Just last night with one of my other companies, a client of ours owes us, I think, a couple of $1,000s. But the sales rep that manages that client, he said, I don't owe you $2,000, I owe you $1,735 according to my records. And we went back and forth, and he said that he wants to clear up the bill, but he doesn't believe he owes $2,000. And I said, well, get back with him and show him all the invoices, and then we'll, make that decision on if we're just gonna take that amount and let it or we're gonna just keep forcing on the $2,000. But the thing is that individual is, number one, he's saying that he has a hardship, that it's been a little tight, Christmas, all that stuff. And we're like, okay, that's fine, but we want to, go through everything before we make that decision. But my rep has to, get all of his information together before he comes and brings that to me, because they don't want to just come in there and say, well, he says he owes this and we say he owes this, and just leave it at that. Because he knows if he comes to me with like that, I'm going to be like, well, you know what we owe. Well, I mean, what he owes us, go and get the, tell him he has to pay the money. So keep it concise. Next thing is don't cast blame or shrink responsibility. This is a big thing. And I know it could be confusing. That's why you got to work with someone who knows how to do this stuff. So if it's a hardship letter and it says don't cast blame or shrink responsibility, what they mean by that is that you take responsibility for the situation because you took on the debt. So you have to take that responsibility, but you need to show the process, or the I guess the best way to say it is the circumstances that got to that. Because what ultimately happens, and what they're going to actually be kind of looking at, is that did you just blow your money, you have problems, or did circumstances meet to where you were taking care of everything, and then circumstances beyond your control met, and that made you have that hardship. Next thing is don't use jargon or fancy words. I talked about this in the video, and if you have watch the video that I talk about, don't use legal. You don't need to use legal when you're dealing with the first parts of any type of dispute with anyone. You don't need the legal. A lot of people try to repair credit and deal with debt collectors, throwing all these legal terms out there. If you go to court or you do anything, the first thing the judge is going to do is say, can we work this stuff out? And they don't use legal to try to work it out. So don't use jargon or fancy words, saying like, according to the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, that you violated this term or that. There's a time for all of that stuff. But when you're trying to get someone to look at your side of a situation, and this is early in the game, you don't want to make it a confrontational type deal. You want to try to get parties together and say, this could be something potential that we could either just go ahead and decide to do this for this individual. Next thing is keep your objectives in mind, the ultimate goal. So that's why you don't get all off running all over the place with your words, running into going and grabbing laws and all that stuff, is that the objective is to get this company to make a decision to cancel out your debt. I mean, bottom line. So like in a way, you construct that letter to where you would actually, if you took it in there, person would say, well, what's the bottom line? As a matter of fact, the way that you should always write a letter, if it's a sales letter for selling a product or service, if it's a letter to convince someone to do something, you should always start with the goal at the beginning, and then you build upon the case throughout the letter. Provide the creditor an action plan. Like, if you're trying to work out a deal, and this is a lot of the time what ends up happening with debt settlement, is that, okay, you're going to be on one end or the other end of when it's coming to dealing with an old debt that you have to pay. Is that either you're going to let the debt collector or the original creditor rule and make all the rules and make all the terms, or you're going to be able to step forward and say, I need to take action in this, because if I don't take action and deal with it and set up my terms, their terms can make it a lot worse on my finances. And we talk about this a lot. Like, there was a recent client, where we told her, we said, well, what is your objective? She was like, I moved and I need to sell my home, and you might be watching this video. I'm not going to say your name, but just listen to this. This will help a lot of people. Your situation will help a lot of people. She said, I need to move. I have these 2 accounts, and they're suing me. They're potentially going to sue me. But I don't want them to get the money from selling my house, because I need to move and get, established in the new place that new area that I'm moving to. And I don't want them to take all of that money. I need that so I can get established. But if they know that I'm going to sell it, then all of a sudden they're going to try to take the money. And I said, okay, hold on. This is the strategy that you use in that situation, is that you need to get them under contract with making the payments to them. You can always come back to them later and say, hey, my situation changed and I want to offer you a settlement, maybe 35% of what's left, or 25% or whatever, that's later negotiation. But what's going on right now is that you don't want to lose your money that you're going to make from the house to pay those debts, when you could utilize that money to move forward and get into if you're going to buy another house or whatever you're going to do. So it was like, you take the initiative, in which we ended up doing it in making these deals. We set up 2 different payment plans where we had the debt collection, or the original creditors, because they had debt collectors hired to collect on the debt, got them under contract. So now when the closing happens, there's nothing that can come up that would be able to take her money, because all she would have to do is sign an affidavit showing the contract that she's already making payments on those. One of them was a judgment. The other one was not a judgment. So that's why it's very important, because when you sell a property, they can go and look and have that lien on that judgment and just call that creditor and say, hey, we got your money. We're going to take it out of the money that we were going to give to her. So, but if you have it under contract, because they always ask you, well, what about these? This came up during our closing title search. And you say, oh, here's a contract. I've already worked out a deal with them. So that's fine. We don't need to contact them or anything. And they'll allow her to sign an affidavit because she's showing contracts, which is what we got. We made sure that we got payment arrangement contracts and one of them was on the judgment. So they're not going to be able to take the money from the home. And the other one was on a pending one that was going to go to court that we actually saved from her having to go to court. Now, you can contact us about those two. Go to my website, thecreditrepairshop.com. In the live chat, leave us your name, phone number, tell us your situation, and then we'll get back with you on what it will take to have us handle that for you. Next thing is talk to a financial coach. We would be the financial coach on this. That's if you don't feel comfortable. Some people feel comfortable with allowing, with going and talking to debt collectors or creditors. What I would say to that, this might sound, like self-promoting, is that you have to be very careful when dealing with debt collectors. You have to be very careful with dealing even with the original creditors, because this is what they're doing, is that they're assessing your situation at all times. That's why when you call a debt collector's office or you call the collection department for a creditor, or you're just calling a creditor's number and they say that we're recording this call for training purposes, whatever, because they're always assessing data. So if you could just imagine if you called and they started to kind of get you emotional, that, hey, they're making threats, but it's like borderline threats, or the way that the person is talking to you just doesn't seem right. We've heard it all when it comes to this stuff. And the difference is that when you have someone that's in between that talks, it's like, just imagine me, and then you got the person, the creditor on this side, and you have yourself on this side. It's like a filter. It's like, number one, we block you from saying some things that you just shouldn't be saying. Also, if the creditor says something, we're able to filter and say, okay, I'll get back to you on that. And then we assess it with our client and we filter it in the way that we say it and get it back over to the creditor or debt collector. This stuff happens all the time. And I can see where if there's no filter in both parties, the creditor and the debt collector, or the creditor, debt collector, or you are speaking directly, where a lot of things could pop off, where they can ask you a question and they would feel like you're avoiding them, which would also, even dealing with a hardship, where they were to call you just to say, okay, we want to talk to you about your hardship, and then they catch you on some things where you're not trying to be dishonest, but you don't want to end up saying it the wrong way. That's why this stuff has got to be very, very, very careful in the way that you move forward with dealing with these companies, because number one, their top line is they want to make money. Your top line is you want to save money. So to make those two meet, some type of agreement has to be made in the middle, and every situation is going to be different. Every hardship is going to be different. Every creditor is going to be different. It's always going to be different. That's why it's good to have a filter in the middle to be able to allow things to be looked at and talked about and worked out before it gets to the creditor. And then when the creditor has answers, it's able to be filtered with someone who has experience, talk to you about it and say, hey, this from experience, this is what happened, or maybe it's a whole new thing, but we're able to work that out before we get that over to that creditor or debt collector, before that answer gets sent over to them. And also, when you have a third party that's in the middle talking to you, the situation between them and us is more of a business relationship. Trust me, the way that they look at it is that they're like, hey, maybe they got other clients now or in the future that they're going to help us resolve. Like we become, I don't want to make it like a resource, like we're on their side, but it becomes a resource, like the best word to use for it is a working relationship on opening the door to resolving their main problem, which is getting in contact with clients and working out deals, resolving the situation. Because when it all comes down to it with creditors, when it all comes down to it with debt collectors, is that they are looking at people as numbers, but the people who are the debtors are looking at them as the enemy. And so that's their problem. And when people like my company are in the middle and does this thing right, they really do value us, because they're like, you've brought a resolution to us that we just didn't think was going to be able to happen, and it allows us to resolve this so we can move on to other issues that we have with other clients, and then it allows our client to be able to move forward in their life so they can start rebuilding their life financially. All right, I'm in the video here. If you need help with your credit, please visit thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process and my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website, your3scores.com. Grab those credit reports, view them, scan through them, look in the comment section. It has information that you won't see on the free bureau reports that are out there. You just won't see it. And this could be the information that you could utilize in the hardship, and you don't even know it. It could utilize that and getting something removed off your credit. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters, statute of limitations, cease and desist, and debt validation letter. Please make a donation. It helps monetize my time for making the videos. And thank you for your time. Please subscribe. Please ask your questions, post your comments, share these videos. This is Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.